formerly known as City Place. Your lead reviewer is Saquon Gatling, and my name is Christina Sorrento. I am the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. This meeting is for you to ask any questions about the comments that you received. And I will ask Saquon to kind of highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to the applicant. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded.
Okay, so we'll get started. I'm Saquon, lead reviewer for the Ellsworth Place sketch plan at the intersection of Colesville and Benton. I'll just give an overview for everyone listening. It's a sketch plan that proposed atop the existing mall, which will propose up to 425,000 some odd square feet of residential density. And the remaining density of the mall to remain will be there. So we'll max out the density on the site up to 300 feet in height, and is subject to the downtown Silver Spring and adjacent communities new master plan, and it's within a historic district. Comments were sent on Friday. I'll just give a brief overview of some of the highlights. As it's historic, we need coordination with the Historic Preservation Commission. We've also been working with the Design Advisory Panel for incorporating their comments in the next submittal, so we'll look forward to those. Staff had comments on the public benefit points, particularly the reuse of the building category, as well as for the open space fee requirement for the master plan. Environmentally, we recommended a noise analysis requirement going forward in the next submittal, as well as showing a green cover exhibit for proposed compliance with the green cover recommendations of the master plan. And for transportation, we had coordination with MCDOT for the Fenton Street Bikeway and just explore improvements to the utility vaults in the right of way. The rest of the comments were sent. I'll just leave it there and we can open for the questions.
Okay, well, thank you. My name's Gus Bauman of Beverage and Diamond. I'm here with Ian Shane and Eleni Wanker, and we're here. Oh,
Ezra Sortoton, I'm the landscape architect of the project.
oh, great. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah. So, and virtually we have the owner of Ellsworth Place and architects all here virtually. Trey, is Trey here?
No, he's on vacation.
I am. Hey guys.
Oh, he is here. Okay. And we also have Josh.
So we do have Trey Culpepper, who is with GBT Realty in Nashville, the owner of Ellsworth Place, the developer of this project, as well as the architects. The entire team is here, either here present in the room or virtually. So we're happy to make our comments and ask questions. And I just want to say as an opening, before I turn this over to Ian, that as you probably know, this was a project that was approved back in the early 1990s as an office tower. And obviously it never got built for a lot of good reasons, as you can imagine. So that the project that was City Place, that is now Ellsworth Place, was the retail center, and then on top would be the tower. So we are here. All we're doing is changing the use of the tower. Nothing else changes. Everything that was reviewed in the early 90s and approved, everything remains the same. We've been before the Historic Preservation Commission. They liked what they saw. We've been before the Silver Spring Urban District. They liked what they saw. We've been before the Silver Spring Citizens Advisory Board. They're all very supportive of this project proceeding. And we've appeared before the Silver Spring Design Advisory Panel twice, received their comment. We've had a great interaction with them. We're going back one more time for design refinements. And we go back before the Historic Preservation Commission following sketch plan approval by the planning board, but before we have the site plan public hearing at the planning board when we met with HPC, we all agreed that we would come back with our detailed design for the apartment tower before the site plan public hearing at planning board. So we're very pleased to be here in front of you all at DRC, both in the room and virtually. And so with that, I just want to conclude with one more statement. I'm going to turn this over to Ian, who has the spreadsheet. We are putting the tower in the same spot as was approved back in the early 90s. We don't touch the ground. We're going to build this tower literally atop the retail center, but not on the old Heck department store portion of Ellsworth Place. This goes on to what was the new City Place, now the new piece of Ellsworth Place. And the opening, the pedestrian entrance of the apartment tower is literally on Colesville Road, where you can see the entrance that was planned and built when the retail center got built. And that center entrance is recessed off the sidewalk on Colesville. So to most people, it's invisible. They don't notice it, but just wanted to let you know that now will be the entrance to the apartment building, the pedestrian entrance. But nothing else changes, except now we're bringing housing. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ian, and we're happy to have a conversation with you all. And we appreciate your comments.
Yeah, thank you. No pressure. First couple meetings in 4 years where I've had paper instead of everything on my monitor, so a little disorganized, but
It's okay.
I
I'm
think
sitting here with tons of paper, and I've got the sector plan in front of me. So the Bible, this is the New Testament here. The Old Testament was done in 93 and 2000.
To start with, not in no priority here, the green canopy, which is listed in this sector as 35%, it's going to be a little difficult to achieve because we're not, as Gus said, changing the ground plane. So we're not anticipating taking any trees out or needing to add any trees. We're going to look into possibly adding trees on the amenity levels, but I know staff would probably have a lot of concern about the soil volume to be able to support those trees. And then there's some limited space, obviously, for green roof as well, due to the equipment that we would have on top of the residential tower. Some of you, maybe not all of you, have been in these meetings that Gus is talking about where we really are just taking the prior approval of the office tower, utilizing the structure that exists that was put into place for that office, anticipating the office tower being built at some point, and putting the residential portion on top of that. So it is limited in the terms of LOD. It's limits of work really more than anything. We also have a very small space on the ground on Colesville that the applicant is looking at trying to dress up that residential entry point, sort of focus it and make it fancier for the, the main residential entry. So the limits of work / limits of disturbance should not trigger stormwater management. We'll obviously be adding some green roof and stormwater on the building that doesn't exist today. We will provide a color utility plan to indicate the service. And I know Marie had provided a comment regarding the fire access, so we'll probably need to add a fire hydrant along the Colesville frontage. There were some other concerns about the public benefits, as you had said. And some of the things that we discussed early on prior to submission were the fact that nearly, I think it's 49% of the density that is allowed on the property was built in the 90s. So we had initially discussed with staff trying to utilize that discount to apply to the public benefit point package. And I know Stephanie's shaking her head that we'd had some discussion on that. And so that's initially how we had envisioned it. Moving past that, we are now faced with a little bit of a struggle on trying to get to that, especially if you're going to try to push back on the reuse, which was something that we had suggested to us as a possibility. see. There were some concerns about the faults on, in the right of way. Those faults, Trey can correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant, I think they were placed in, not in service, but they were placed on the property to be able to anticipate the future development. So while we will look into trying to change the tops out for some of the concerns that are there, I know we need to talk to the dry utility consultant because of venting, we may not be able to do full solid on some of those. We got a bunch of comments from DOT, and we do also have pointed comments on DOT for this project, but we got some for Chevy Chase, which I think was an error that came from Katie. That's
Oh, yeah, no, I did. You're right. Yep. Sorry.
There's also comments on the public use space. We do have on the previous approval, I think it's the F amendment, the 8/19/88/046. I believe it's the F letter amendment that alluded to the Coon Park, which was a space on the opposite corner off-site being redeveloped. And then there was a payment to be made in lieu of that space that was off-site that was being counted that is no longer there. So we're trying to locate the proof of that payment. I can't believe it would have gone undone to allow that development. It probably would have been a trigger for either building permit or occupancy of some sort, but the applicant is looking to try and find that detail.
Coon Park was where the Majestic Theaters are now. That block in downtown Silver Spring was the privately owned public park, but it wasn't a park and planning park. But it was part of what was the approval for City Place back in the early 90s. And then Coon Park, Kughn, opened in 92 on that block, moving from that corner of City Place and moving up towards where the library downtown stands today. That's the territory we're talking about.
I would say if you find that you did have a payment,
I'm sorry.
if you find that you did make the payment, please get that information. We couldn't find anything, and we can potentially use that towards a discount for the requirements for the sector plan, but there's no legacy clause for the sector plan. So you must, do the public open space requirement, and it's a fee in lieu, and we have everything up and on our website and how that works. So, and if you have any questions, Henry can talk about it too.
And we are assiduously looking for some piece of paper that the payment was made back in around 91, would have been the time frame since the park then got built and opened in 92. So that payment probably occurred in that period of 90 to 91. I just can't remember.
I'll just add on top of that. I'll add on top of that too, that the developer at the time of City Place that did the expansion space was Petrie Richardson, that partnership. So we bought Ellsworth Place from them in 2018. GBT Realty did. So I've reached back out to Walt Petrie's team to try to locate that payment. It's not something we'll have in our records, but I'm hoping it's something that they can provide from their records.
Thank you, Trey.
Yes.
The only other thing I'd like to add is that we do, as Gus said, have a third DAP meeting that is planned for April 17th. So we are planning on submitting by the 3rd. Many of the things that we had heard in the second meeting, we're going to try and apply and have in the sketch plan resubmission, which I think we'll probably schedule next by the 26th. Assuming that is our first resubmission is the 26th, and that we would be potentially on for May 16th, if I'm not mistaken here. Okay. I don't think I had anything else that was giant. Yeah, there were a couple things that we needed a little clarification on. There were some things that were mentioned in the stormwater narrative. It said something about agents I don't remember exactly what it said. I'm just trying to find it
It
earlier.
was just for coordination with the agencies to make sure no stormwater requirements were necessary.
Okay, I got
And
you.
they commented towards that back, so just keeping that open in case, because typically when there's no disturbance on the ground plane, there's gonna be no stormwater. I just wanted to make sure they commented on that.
Okay.
Confirmed it. So if they can confirm that, we can reference it in that.
We'll reach out, and make sure that, yeah, I mean, it, like I said, it will be limited in size. It won't be exceeding the 5,000 square feet or cubic yard, or even canopy, disturbance, to that effect. There was also mention of a forest exemption. Just wanted to clarify on that. We have an NRI that we got approved prior to this submission, which was requirement. Is that something that we need to also file an exemption, forest exemption?
Right, so typically either you do an NRI leading to a forest conservation plan,
Okay.
or you do a forest conservation exemption straight away, which is sort of bundled with the NRI.
Okay.
So just we need to determine which one you are eligible for and pursue that, so we can have that for the next approval site plan.
Thank you. I'm looking for the mentions that Gus is reminding me. There were findings for the sector plan that you're looking for some additional clarification and detail on. I think we can certainly look through that and add that.
Can you explain what that's about, if you don't mind?
Sure. So the comment was about expanding upon the sector plan. So within looking through the SOJ, I found that the way the project was explained could be a bit more expanded to say how it meets the certain sector plan goals. First, one of those things would be the green cover, which Ian brought up. I'll circle back to that now and just say that if you can show that you're meeting 35% on the new construction rather than on the entire development, that would be something you can speak towards in the SOJ. And there are just other goals that if you can find how those match up with what you're proposing or what's existing on the site as well, and add that detail into the SOJ. I think there was also a comment regarding some of the required zoning ordinance findings in the SOJ, and just making sure that those are addressed. I think I should have had a citation of which section I was looking for in that comment.
Okay. And then to follow back on the green cover requirement / sector plan goals for each project to contribute towards that overall sector target. How do you anticipate we show our compliance, or that we're trying to get there, but there's really nothing opportunity wise for us to add?
So in terms of explaining that, you could go along the way and saying the site is so many square feet, 35% of that would be X. However, within the new construction, which is limited to this amount of square feet, we're contributing 35% of that.
Okay.
So perhaps since this is an existing project you're building the top of, you can't meet that 35% of the whole thing.
Okay.
Just describe how you're going to meet that for the new construction.
35% of the footprint itself. And if we can't meet that, then what does that entail? Is there a fee in lieu, or is there?
There is not a fee in lieu, and typically we try to work with the applicant just to find ways to make sure we're maximizing green cover.
As great as it can possibly be. Okay.
Yeah, but we really don't want to have one of the first projects coming in not meeting 35%.
No, understand.
So it's 35% of the new tower, I think, is what we've decided is, what we're comfortable with. We're not saying of the entire development. So
Sure.
we will come up with some creative solutions to get you to a 35% amount.
Okay. I'm just thinking in terms of and I appreciate the 35% of the footprint of the new thing.
Yeah.
But further, it's just so conceptual now, and we are contending with still the DAP comments.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I mean, you're at sketch, so so it's, I mean, now it's time to start thinking about it. And then at site plan, it's going to be, how are you hitting that 35% for this new tower?
Brandon, who's listening, is on the hook. So
You are good time.
I don't think I had anything else that I wanted to raise. Again, I think we are just a little, squeezed on the public benefit points, which was why we initially had tried to see if we could discount 3 decades worth of density that's already in place versus the new that we were,
Let us take a look again at the category, was it the building?
building reuse.
And internally, and we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. And I did find the error that you were talking about in terms of the incentive, and I fixed that, so our point values have been adjusted.
So with that, it will be a lower point value
It is.
from there. So then we would need to figure out what Stephanie's just speaking towards.
Let us take a look.
I think that was it. We are going to file an HPA here shortly for WSSC review. Obviously, most of the other comments are deferred, but we will continue to follow up with DOT on the bikeway and other DOT comments. And if anything else that's here wanted to bring anything else up, but I think that covered it.
Anything, Trey or Brandon, any questions from the GBT design team while we have everyone here?
This is Brandon Bell with Gresham Smith. No questions on my end. I think Ian has covered some of the general questions that did concern us, but thank you. I appreciate your time.
So we understand that a tentative date for the planning board public hearing is May 16. I take it's probably still tentative, but we have it on our calendars. So we're shooting for that May 16, and we're hopeful. And we just have to go back to the Silver Spring DAP one more time. And we met with the Urban District, the Citizens Advisory Board. We think they'll be sending, by the time of the public hearing, supportive letters, but they've been very positive. As one person said, that one of them has been around as long as the person now speaking with you. And she said, I remember the original hearing. I remember the office tower plan. It's now 3 decades later. She's very happy to see it's going to be housing. And the other thing to bring to your attention, if it isn't self-evident from everything you've reviewed, to meet the new goals of the planning board and the council, we are building this tower and we are not building any parking.
Cheers.
So this is going to be an interesting project for everyone to point to in the future, I think, if I can take that liberty, that we're building a large apartment tower, and it's not senior housing where people assume, well, they don't drive anyway, but this is just going to be an apartment building for anybody and everybody, and we're not building any parking. Parking for those who have cars will be in the nearby county garages. We have met with county DOT, and with DOT sitting here at the table with us, we had a very productive meeting with the director and deputy director and the staff. And they understand what this is, to build an apartment tower for not senior housing, in which we are not providing parking on site. It'll be in the nearby parking garages. So I know I can speak for Trey Culpepper, who is on vacation with his family, but is with us today virtually, and who's in charge of this project for GBT Realty, that we're all very excited by this. And Brandon and his team, which is a terrific group of architects, not from this area, which I think, by the way, is a godsend. And they are coming up with some very interesting design ideas. We are constrained by the footprint of the retail center and where this tower can be placed on that retail center. So they're dealing with those issues and discussing them with the Silver Spring Design Advisory Panel, as we did with the Historic Preservation Commission. So I wanted to assure everyone here from all the different agencies, just to know that there's a lot of interaction, communication, and coordination with a lot of folks, and not, as well as you, of course. And we're dealing with the issues of all the members of the HPC, all the members of the DAP. And that is a group of about 15 people. And so we have about 22 design ideas from the 15 people. And so we're working with that, and we're looking forward to the hearing in front of the planning board in May. Any other questions from anybody while we're all assembled?
You have your schedule from Saquon on the dates that you need to hit. Okay.
I think so.
Yep, you were right about.
They seem to agree, but yeah.
Yeah. So the first resubmittal is March 26th. The final will be April 15th. Agency letters will be due on the 23rd of April and then the board the 16th of May.
Great, thank you.
All right,
That agrees with what we know.
Well, thank you.
great.
Hey, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone, thank you. Yes, everyone, thank you for joining today. Thank you for the detailed feedback and comments and questions you provided for us. We're very excited for this project and the support that we've received along the way and input that's helped us continue to refine what's going to be a great project. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Section 2, Chevy Chase 3 Quincy Street. Your lead reviewer is Saquon Gatlin. The purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions based upon the comments that you received. Saquon will highlight any major items we should discuss and then turn it over to you. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. So go ahead, Saquon.
Good morning, everyone. So this is the 3 Quincy Administrative Subdivision Project in the R60 zone in the historic Chevy Chase Village. The full comments were sent out on Friday, but I'll just highlight a few here and then we can get started. One, we had comments from DPS zoning just to confirm some of the lot coverage figures and applicability there, and environmentally when we wanted to ensure tree protection, so just showing more of those smaller trees and coordinating with our environmental reviewer. And also, as this is a residential project near a major roadway of Connecticut Avenue, we'll need a noise analysis for the project. There were also fire access comments regarding just showing some of the elements on the plan. Also for transportation, coordinating with Chevy Chase Village on the requirements for the sidewalk and coordinating with the Historic Preservation Commission because a historic area work permit will be needed for the work done. And those are the major comments. I'll just turn it over to you for.
I'm Rich Ingram, CPJ. Good morning. Just had a few follow-up. I guess, as you just touched on, the existing 4-foot sidewalk, you'd like 6 foot, let us talk to Chevy Chase.
I don't think they're gonna want it.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, like what would be helpful moving forward is if you can get that from Shayna in writing and then, attach that in your resubmittal and we're good to go.
How do they meet ProAg then?
So they'll still meet it with 4 feet, remember, because ProAg says that the minimum is 4 feet. So it.
Right, but don't you have to have like the widened out the sidewalk?
Yeah,
Every
you
so
need
many
to have
feet?
like 5 feet every 200 feet, but the whole frontage of this is less than that. So I don't. So actually, Rich, that's a good point. I would measure the frontage. If it's wider than 200 feet, there needs to be a passing zone. For ProAg, but I think when I measured it, it's fewer than the frequency at which you would need it.
We
So
have 80.6 and 86.4,
yeah,
so.
so no.
Right, but if you look at the whole sidewalk,
Well, right, but that's going to be up to the Chevy Chase Village to decide if they want to make them do that. So, but you could say that frequency could happen outside of this.
But it's just how big of the bump out is it?
It's
For how-
something like, I want to say it's like 5 by 5. You know what I mean? So like,
We're not too far from the intersection, so the Chevy Chase will want to think about where they start and then where they want to put that first one. But
yeah. And it's again, it's up to the village to require it, right? It's,
Yeah, I would talk with them and see, but if they want it, it's not that.
and we're happy to jump on a call if
Yeah,
it's helpful.
we're getting ready to meet with them
Cool.
after today.
All right, cool.
To go over some stuff with them as well.
are they aware of ProAg?
I've made her aware, but it's up to them.
The next one is, as you mentioned, the noise study. I've done a few of these and I haven't had to do a noise study. I went online. Where can I find the guidelines? Like what sets the proximity to a major intersection when you actually need a noise study?
Yeah.
And a noise study is done now based on a preliminary layout, final layout to be done at building permit time. Does that impact anything?
I don't believe so, just because the minor variations of where the house might end up.
It's a small lot, so it's not going to move a lot.
Yeah, so as far as the guidelines, we have our, I believe it's 1993 or somewhere along those noise guidelines on our site. I can link those to
You
you.
don't mind, I looked yesterday and I had a hard time finding them.
Yep, we can link to that.
that.
It gives you the criteria as well as the distance. for
Okay,
it.
but this needs to be handled now. It adds up time, not building permit time. The next one, environmental, per section 22A F4. And it's kind of a moot point, but I just want to clarify because we do need to show the smaller trees for the historic. I understand that. But tree save plans must show on-site, off-site trees 6 inches or greater. Is that for all tree save plans, even forest conservation exemption?
Just because it's in a historic district.
Okay, just because it's in a historic district. Okay, then it goes with that other comment. I want to make sure because I do exemptions all the time and we only have to show 24 inches or greater. So I just wanted to clarify. Another environmental was revised utility connections, limits of disturbance, but it wasn't specific on how that needs to be revised.
So basically, it was not very clear the connections that you have in the front
Uh-huh.
of that property.
For the water and sewer, electric,
Yes.
gas?
the variance that you may have to request based on that.
Or the public right of way trees, which are under Chevy Chase though, right?
That's right, yeah. But if you have a specimen or significant trees, but also because they're like in a historic, you will have to request a variance.
Yeah, the good thing is we're not impacting removing any specimen trees at all with this, so. But I understand the smaller stuff. Let's see here. So the historic part, I've had single lots that are in historic and I've gone through that process. But I haven't had to deal with it at this stage for ad sub. So,
Hands on if you do have any questions for him too.
well, Saquon made the comment on it, but I wanted to see, so all of these trees and everything's gonna be handled in time of ad sub, correct? Even though we haven't done final plans to determine, our LOD is set, the stormwater concepts approved. And I really don't want to change that if I don't have to.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure that it's the sequences, no matter what, we have to do this now. Identify all the trees, tree protection measures on your plan. We're getting ready to coordinate with the village on this. Meet the site. I know that the homeowner has already met with them. There are trees on the property that need to be removed, also on the adjacent property, which that property owner is on board, my understanding, to remove at least one of them. So everything needs to be handled now, though, as far as all these trees, tree protections, all that stuff on this tree protection plan.
Yes, handle it now, but of course, if things change in the field, when you get to doing the work, the inspector can coordinate those field changes and approve those shifts as they happen.
Well aware of field changes with inspectors and not shooters. One other one, just to let you know, yes, we have the homeowner, we've talked to all the neighbors are on board, they don't object to this. My understanding, the village is on board as well.
Yep.
We're not, have you guys received any feedback from
Yeah.
anybody? And that time,
Send it to you.
okay. Is that time up yet?
So they can send it to us
Anytime during the process?
anytime during this process. And then, we have a tentative planning board date, but if we don't receive any opposition, we will be taking this to the planning director. So that's the goal.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, if you guys can clarify that noise study for me, because I do have another one that's coming up next month. Same thing. Just so I can get some information on that, get that study together.
Yeah, I can send you the guidelines, and there's also a GIS site that gives you the criteria of each roadway, so you can just confirm that too. So I'll send you both of those things.
Other than that, I don't really have anything. It's pretty straightforward. You guys see any other issues with what we're doing here other than the historic aspect of it? And
Yeah, I would just say coordinating with Dan.
well, that was another thing. As far as the historic permit goes, obviously they haven't even started designing architecture for this house yet.
Right.
What's done now and what's done, I guess, at building permit? What's going to be the difference between those two?
Well, I mean, once you've got, I would recommend that once you have some schematics or some design ideas, that you come before the Historic Preservation Commission for a preliminary consultation. It gives the HPC an opportunity to review your design, provide some feedback. It's on the record, so you can rely on their comments, but it really, because infill lots in Chevy Chase are pretty rare, we don't see them all that often. So I just want to make sure that when you do work into, starting the design of the house, that you're on the right track and you're not going to get too far over your skis. So that's where you come in for, that schematic review. You listen to what the HPC has to say, and then before you submit for all your construction permits, you come in for the final historic area work permit. And then, as long as you listen to what the HPC had to say, then it sails through. The one other thing that I'd note is that trees larger than 6 inches DBH require a hop to get removed. So, before you even start clearing the site, those also need to be identified and sent into our office as well. Okay. And I'd be happy to, we can set up a separate historic preservation meeting independent of everybody else to talk about how best to navigate the process.
I would like to send you an email maybe later today and see what your availability is coming
Sure.
up next week or two.
Yep.
Make sure we're not missing anything. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you.
See?
What's that? Oh, we were waiting outside. One of our people's loud. I didn't realize your door was shut.
I'll get started. So, good morning, everybody. This is the DRC meeting for Juglins, you said, right?
Yes, this.
Juglins property. I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. And your lead reviewer is Troy. That's right. Is Troy Leftwich. The purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions based upon the comments you received. And Troy will just highlight any of the major things we should talk about and then turn it over to you. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Go ahead, Troy. Hopefully you can hear me. He's not trying to talk then. Troy?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
No worries if it was quiet on my end. Sorry.
Go ahead, you're up.
Okay, thank you. So this is the concept plan Jetlands. It's coming in for a rezoning request. It's located right outside the town of Kensington, but located in the Kensington sector plan area. I believe it's a sector plan. But nonetheless, the property's roughly split zone. It's a portion of IM located here on Howard, and then another fronts on Warfield, and then it also fronts on Brainard, and there's a portion of R60 that abuts the Kensington Library. I think the overall we are in support of the rezoning request. I think there's a couple of questions just in regards of the layout. We didn't want to spend too much time on the layout request because I know we had a couple of different design scenarios that we had presented as part of our DRC comments. We wanted to spend some time with y'all to kind of work which one you think is the most feasible option. There's also, I guess, a big issue in regards of the storm drain and then how you want to deal with the stormwater management in this area. I think we will kind of want to figure out that process a little bit, or the approach kind of at the same time as the zoning request, even though we know the details of that won't necessarily be fleshed out to like the later phases of the plan, but it, just from the concerns and the constraints up here to kind of get an idea of that approach before you get too far down the road after if the zoning request is accepted. Also within that, that piece kind of goes with the frontage improvements. As you know, all of those streets would need some level of frontage improvements. There's also this parcel here that's essentially MCDOT right of way, and so there's just a number of issues, I guess you could say, to kind of flesh out in regards of the frontage improvement, some of these unique parcels and situations that would need to be addressed as part of the development to come in. But I think ultimately, with a drastic change from the existing use to the proposed change in the zone, I think all of these things are feasible. We didn't see a situation where there wasn't a possible redesign approach and kind of get these issues addressed within that step. So I think at this time, I'll turn it over to the applicant to kind of hit their high points. I know we'll probably have to have a number of different separated meetings to flesh out the individual details per the overall comments that you received from DRC.
I'm Mike Norton, for everyone that doesn't know, Norton Land Design. We are working on the concept plan for everyone. I do have the two applicants. This is two separate owners of the property. We have the Juglins property on the east, and then we have what we're calling Juglins West, which is on the other side of Warfield Street. So we do have two different applicants that we are actually pulling together on this project. When we first started, we were looking at just the east side of the property, and then we talked about potentially pulling in the west side, which does have the R60, it does have the IM zone, and can we make all of this work? What we did, actually, one of the first things that we studied on this was the storm drain and how much and how long. We do have a plan. I should have included it with the concept. We did a storm drain study to show going from the Warfield all the way down Howard Street to the end, which pretty much is park property, because we know there is no storm drain network at all on Howard Street. So we have looked at that. We're looking at pretty much a 27-inch storm drain pipe running the full length of Howard Street to address this. That's going to kind of get me into some of the concepts that we have and how we can possibly make this project work. Troy, I think, so I guess that's let me take a step back. So that's one big ticket item. We are getting costs back of well over $300,000 to install that storm drain for Howard Street. So Howard Avenue, I'm sorry. So we do have that kind of overarching expense that we know. One of our other questions is really with the property that is Montgomery County property that's kind of being treated as right of way. It's not quite right of way. Our responsibility for that is kind of, it seems to be, we're probably going to have to meet with DOT a little bit more.
We met with Cliff, the
Okay.
attorney, and he thought it was right away.
It's being treated. I guess the question is, what is going to be our obligation for? It says possibly have to terminate that.
Yeah, so you could, I don't think that I don't know that we've determined what kind of termination, like route. You'll
Right.
need to do frontage improvements on it. I think that it's basically a fee simple right away.
Okay.
So it's not dedicated, but I guess that's how we look at it.
Is it going to be up to us to roll that parcel, that property in and formally dedicate it? Are we talking like cul-de-sac? I guess that's kind of one of our
Cul-de-sac
expenses.
would be the worst case, or
Okay.
hammerhead.
Something along those lines. So we're trying to figure out, okay, what's going to be required for that? We understand Warfield is going to have to be fully addressed with the right of way in that, all right of way improvements. So kind of those big three items that we have is then going to lead to, I guess, Troy, can you pull up option 1? I think it is.
How long is the pipe, storm drain pipe? How many linear feet?
1,300 linear feet. Like I said, we did that actually before we even studied anything
Yeah.
to see what that was going to be. I should have uploaded it and didn't even cross my mind. So yeah, we're looking at, and then on this plan, we do show potential stormwater management on the site right now. It is the kind of like micro bioretention planter boxes, if you will, at the end of each of the rows. This is our concept. Troy, can you pull up option 1 that you guys worked on?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah, we only have one option.
No worries. So these
That's
option 1.
3,
That's
3.
That's 2.
That's 2. That's
Here we go. There we go.
Yeah, so this is option 1. I guess what we wanted to possibly talk about with staff and some sort of breakout session following is on if we could possibly look at the west side of Warfield running through the center, doing something similar to what you have right there where we do show the frontage, the townhomes fronting on Warfield. We think we're going to have a fire issue with the plan that is shown right there. I think we're going to probably lose 3 or more townhome units. So it is substantially reduced. And then, so if we possibly looked at the west side townhomes, the layout that you have right there, could we then go look at the east side that we currently have as maybe a hybrid of the two? Is what we were possibly thinking about.
Why would you lose?
The ones where the road is coming in off of Howard, when we overlaid this, we don't think the widths are correct.
Okay.
Right there, we think that that's going to be a max of 3 units, that where we're showing 5 and 4, I think it is. We don't think that that's going to be wide enough to work. But we're willing to look at that.
I guess you're saying wide enough.
Yeah, to get the circulation right, to get us through that parking lot and then circulate through. I think we might lose.
So you're saying these units would be
Those will be
question.
reduced. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We think we could keep the frontage like what you have on Warfield. We would prefer to go back to, so the FAR we have is, we have the 1.5 on the east side. We
Yeah.
would prefer if we could possibly look at what we already have or what we came up with on the east side. We understand that the units don't front on Warfield and that these are, I think you call them attached, but they're actually detached garages. If I
Yeah.
read this correct, yeah. So, right, right. Our concern is, again, if we're looking at having to install the storm drain network, having to do a correct terminus of Brainerd and then the Warfield, we really need to look at how can we maximize that FAR on that east side if possible. So that's one of our concerns, to make those I mean, it's a big expense I think we lost on the east side although we love this concept, we lost, I think, maybe 10 units. I don't remember on the east side. So that's, to do all the upgrades, it's going to be substantial loss. But maybe we're thinking we could possibly do something like what's on the west and then incorporate on the east and kind of maybe get us to somewhere, kind of upper into the high 30s on the return. I think we came up with possibly 39. Jan 37, somewhere around that, which we think could possibly work.
Yeah.
With the improvements that have to occur.
Just clarify, this is Natasha.
Yes, I got that.
And I did the sketches. So to just clarify, like these are just options.
Sure.
So we are not asking.
No, we welcome those.
Yeah, so these are like options to think how we can make
Yeah.
Warfield more like a
Right.
pedestrian oriented street with houses looking into it rather
Yeah.
than side of the houses. And the way that I sketch them, so the width of the houses are kind of like vary. So like you shouldn't just like count them because I know you are offering like a narrower or wider. So it all depends how you demise them. So
Yeah.
the stick can be 4 or 5 or 3 depending on the width. And also the other concept is to like reduce the curb cut on the Warfield. So that's why like I have all the alleys coming through Howard and the Bernard from right of the image and the top and the bottom of the image. So that's the concept, and that's what like we also like try to see if
Yeah.
we can work on the diversity of the unit type to bump your density. If there's opportunity to introduce 2/2s or other type of housing, that
Mhm.
might be bring your.
I saw that in option 2, also the 2/2s. I think it's that side. I think it's just that side where we have the CRN 1.5 is if we could kind of keep that hopefully as dense as we can. And then I think we might possibly, I think when we looked at this a little bit more, it might end up being 4 rows of units, and then we could introduce some more green space. So it'd only be 2 curb cuts on that one side of Warfield. So we could possibly make that work, but I'm thinking maybe we do some sort of, maybe another session with you and Troy, and, is there some way we could take all of these, your ideas and kind of merge them with ours on that east side might be an option that we could work with.
Sure.
Because right now, I think adding the west side in was something that we're weighing, whether or not we do all of that. We might have to make all of this work is what our concern is. But if we only did the east side, we're still going to have to do the storm drain upgrades. We're still going to have to do Warfield. So then it really starts to get complicated from a dollars.
Mhm.
So we also looked at, I think it was a couple of recent designs, I think as recent as 2023 for townhome units. I think it was maybe Strathmore, one of those where it does have the frontage where one side of the road is fronted on the road. One side of the road, the townhome units are fronted like what you have, but then on the other side, they do have them kind of inloaded. So maybe that's why we're kind of looking at maybe a hybrid, something along those lines.
Yeah, we are happy to look at
Yes.
what you are offering, but
I think that's really our bigger takeaway on this. I noticed on there as well, Troy, in your response to our questions, I want to make sure you were talking with possibly the PUEs, talking with DPS about the PUEs going away. I don't know if that could actually work, and I wanted to kind of ask that question.
So is it a 0 lot line? Development?
No, we have, what do we have on there, Jane? For
Talking about the zone, the overall zoning request will allow for a 0 lot line with the CRN.
Right, so it's like 0 or 10?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
We can consider it, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess, see, I mean, we really would like to minimize dry utilities where they can be outside right away. So if the zoning is 0 ERL requirement, obviously we can't, because by the ordinance itself, you could push your lots all the way to right away. So if you have 0 lot line, there is no requirement for P. You can't. But if it's not, if you have some BRLs by zoning, we are looking for minimizing the dry public utilities in the right of way.
So right now on Warfield, the only utilities we have in the right of way is electric and gas. So, okay.
But they're overhead.
Overhead, yeah, overhead electric, yeah. So we understand we're gonna have to put that underground and all of those requirements.
Exactly. So that's what our goal is.
Is there,
If they put it underground, then they can potentially put it in the right of way.
Well, we would rather stay out of the right of way if we have a PUE, viable PUE.
Yeah, I think we wanted to kind of discuss that because I think with, the streetscape and, the constraints with the site, I think we would probably prefer not to have the PUE if not necessary. But we can talk, that out some more.
Then the PUE, the utility would have to be under the sidewalk. I think we have that preference.
okay. Is there any opportunity to look at Warfield being something other than a 60-foot right of way, or is that?
That is something that the right of way, look into market
I
plan.
think we asked that in the
per
question, but
the code, complete streets of the neighborhood street, it should be a 60-foot right of way, especially, I think, given that likely on-street parking is going to be required there. I don't think lower than 60.
We do want the sidewalk in the right of way.
Yeah, the sidewalk, the street buffer, the parking, and then the dimensions needed for the travel lanes. I don't think anything lower than 60 feet would work.
would not work. Okay.
We really need to see details of it.
Okay. Okay. I think, yeah, when we first started, the whole reason to come in was to whether or not we could get the zoning on that west side. So I think we got what we were asking. Somewhere in there, I believe, Troy, also, I want to make sure I understand and bring everything out in here. Per the sector plan, per the floating zone, what we were requesting, I think you were saying that we could go to a 1.0.
Yeah, it's based on the existing zone. And so, well, one, you don't have, so it's twofold. When you're requesting a floating zone, if there's a master plan recommendation, you can't go over that master plan recommendation. But since this property doesn't have a master plan recommendation for a floating zone, you're limited to what the existing zone constraints. And it's just there's a chart in the code that kind of like breaks down your existing zone and how much square feet you got. And then it kind of lets you know you got the potential FARs. And so it looks like the max you can do is a CR, or if you're looking to do the CRN, it was a CRN 1, and then the caps of the R or the C would be 0.75. So you do have less density on that west side of Warfield than you do on the on your existing piece of it. And so based on the zoning, because I think it makes sense to keep what you already have on the east side the same, because that's you got more intense zoning on that side. And then,
right.
And then on the and so actually your zoning request will only be for the west side. It wouldn't be for
both
sides. So
correct.
I guess, am I hearing you correctly? Is there a thought that you would come in with the 1.5 separately, and then the zoning request may go as a separate process? Or are you thinking that you would want to get the zoning and then maybe do the east side? Because I guess those are two different tracks and processes. And
We haven't got that far, to be honest with you.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just just thinking it out and hearing it out, with two different.
Yeah, and I think maybe we'll probably want to talk to you with that. I guess what I want to go back on, my question on this is when you look at the chart, I just want to be clear because in the comments, I believe it said CRN 1.0 we could do, but on the IM, it's a max of 0.75. Are you saying that we could do 1.0 on the whole west side or no?
No, so you got a total FAR of 1, but you have a breakout of C. I can just kind of just show you real quick. Let me just show you the chart because I already kind of had it up here.
Yeah.
So this is the
right
development standards. If you don't have a recommended zone for the master plan, you got the R6 is R60, right?
Correct.
You're under that R60 is under that 0.5. So you have
Yes.
that total 1 FAR, but then you have a breakout of for that mixed zone, you could do up to a portion of the C. The commercial could be up to 7.5, but then the R would be the difference for no more than the 1 total FAR. So since you're proposing all residential, you would just be a cap of 0.75 for the residential on both pieces, and the IM is the same situation. You fall into this category because you're a little bit over an acre in that side, but you're still in the same formula scenario. So you're really looking at a 0.75 residential for that whole west side of the property.
That's what, I wanted to make sure I understood that. Okay.
And then there was a prerequisite request, but I think you hit that. It's just more about checking off the boxes when you come in for that rezoning request. But that R60 piece had a prerequisite request that you had to check off for that rezoning request, and I put that code reference in the write up too, or in the note. So
okay. I guess, do we have any more questions? You guys have any?
When you speak to, and in my own mind, I'm trying to categorize things, dry utilities. So I'm assuming water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer to the extent that would be in the street.
Those are wet.
Right.
Yeah. Dry utilities would be power.
Power, communication, gas.
Okay. That's all that we have. Yeah.
I was going to touch on process real quick. Matt Folden, regulatory supervisor for the division. Thank you for submitting the concept plan. I think this is a really good conversation to have. So concept concludes with today's meeting. If you wanted to go ahead and prepare revised sketches and put in a new concept, you would just draw a new number out of the system and we would go through this process again. So I know there was some discussion about follow-up meetings. I think we're happy to provide some feedback one-on-one, but to get the full benefit of the DRC and the other agencies, we would go through a new concept plan process.
Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for White Flint Fire Station number 23. Your lead reviewer is Amy Lindsay. The purpose of this meeting is to ask any questions based upon the comments you received. I will ask Amy to highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to the applicant. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. So thank you very much for submitting this concept plan. Just as a brief overview, this plan, the property is located at the corner of Josiah Henson Road and 355. It is a CR 3.0, C 2.5, R 1.5. We have a number of concerns with the plan. We do not support the current layout at this time because, as you know, the county has prioritized the production of housing, and this current layout would not allow for the Victory Housing senior housing development to be able to go into this space, as well as environmental sustainability. Right, the county has spent a large amount of effort, as well as the private sector spending effort, reducing the amount of surface parking areas. This does not work towards meeting our walkability and transit-oriented development goals. It will not allow for the connection of Chapman Avenue to 355, which is a major one of the goals of the sector plan. So, you know, and we think that taking up this particular corner with what is essentially going to be a surface parking lot at the corner of Josiah Henson Parkway and 355, it really works against what a lot of the goals of the White Flint sector plan are in terms of increasing the economic competitiveness. So, you know, that's on a macro level. On a micro level, you know, we would like to see a greater efficiency of all of the asphalt, not trying to cut into the efficiency of the fire station and the police facility. That's not the goal here. We recognize the importance of those facilities in providing, you know, public services. But we do think that there could be efficiencies gained and that we could satisfy all of the goals of the county, right? That we've all agreed on these goals, right? To provide housing, to reduce surface parking, that all of these could be met through some redesign efforts. And we are happy to work with DGS on any efforts to satisfy those goals. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Great. Thanks, Amy. This is Sean Benjaminson with AdTech Engineers. Thanks for taking the time to look at the plans for us. One of the driving factors in how the site's laid out is the presence of the red line metro tunnel that kind of bifurcates the site. Do you see that on the plan? If you could put your cursor on top of it.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, it runs almost planned north-south through there. And so as we started to lay the project site out, that's where we really started to respect that. And even there's a little chamfer in the building corner there adjacent to it to keep the building out of the zone of influence of that metro tunnel. And so that's where the project started. The secondly is the presence of an existing WCC easement that runs through the kind of east-west along the top border of the property. And that's how we defined our work area of the site. And so as we developed it, you know, it kind of set how close we could be or far we could be to the west and how far we could be to the north, trying to respect some of these offset distances, providing stormwater management and those types of things. Going through the comments in particular, we're going to explore what we can do related to providing sidewalks, widening on Chapman and Randolph, if we're able to provide those, recognizing the need to still provide stormwater management facilities. For both streets. The concern related to the apparatus apron there along Chapman. Y'all compared it to Clarksburg Fire Station. That station's set further back into the site. We actually designed that one. It's set further back into the site and provides a method to narrow that driveway and limit that crossing distance. But due to the presence of the metro tunnel, I don't think that we can scooch the building any further to the west to narrow that drive and still have the apparatuses be able to exit the site in an emergency situation. Oops, the next one I had in particular. We're going to explore the widths of some of the driveways. You mentioned that to see if we can reduce them further. One of the challenges we have is accommodating, fire trucks on a routine basis versus on a, normal site where, God forbid, a fire truck shows up, to allow them to move in and out freely. The intent is during an emergency situation, they would exit from Chapman, to go their call, but returning to the station, they could come through that Randolph connection point in, or from the Chapman connection point further to the south on the plan to enter the site returning. So we could have, we need to make sure that we accommodate vehicles coming in and out, as well as the police facility, which will sit kind of dashed it in the far left-hand side or the western side for police exiting the site and accommodating the fire trucks. So we're going to look at that to see if we can reduce payments if we're able.
I appreciate those efforts, but I think our bigger point is that this layout does not accommodate the proposed senior housing. I think our points are much bigger than that. And I would like to suggest that we set up a follow-up meeting to sit down and go over this. I think it's bigger than, I appreciate the goal of reducing some of the drive aisle widths. For example, a 24-foot drive aisle in a parking area is a bit excessive. But I would suggest that the problems are much larger than that and that we should schedule a follow-up.
I'll defer to DGS on that. I think Hamid Omidvar want to speak to that, Hamid.
Good morning. My name is Hamid Omidvar. I'm Division Chief of Building Design Construction with DGS. As you may all be aware, some of you, the original study on this site was based on the request by the county executive, was the feasibility of co-locating senior or affordable or senior housing with the fire station. We spent about a year. It didn't yield to any feasible solution. Therefore, the executive directed a team, and actually Grimmon Parker, who is the architect for the station, is commissioned. And that effort at this point is located on another property that is not connected to this, but it's very close by. It's on the southern left side of the drawing, if you will. There was an issue brought up about the proposed road connecting Chapman to 355 that limits the use of housing on that property, which is not on this drawing. And Department of Transportation is, as we're speaking, is looking into alternatives to that. And we leave it to them to figure out what works. There was a second request, again, to see if there is any possibility for technically feasible to co-locate any type of housing with this fire station. Unfortunately, due to the zone of influence of the it's narrow lines, it may not be very visible of the tunnel underneath it. The station that you see located on this drawing, within an inch or two going on any direction, is kind of locked. And as you could see, because of that, one corner of the station is cut a little bit so that we could build it. Otherwise, we can't. So it's a nice wish to put in a housing in this property, on this property, but it's commercially not viable, technically not viable. And as we're speaking, the county executive is determining all the studies that we provided to them. I cannot speak on the other site for the housing, but I know still that's on the agenda, but not on this property because it's just technically not feasible.
So we see some areas where we do believe that there are some efficiencies that can be made. I'm not disputing your studies. We obviously haven't seen them, but we do see that there are some significant opportunities to meet more of the county's goals. So would you be willing to set up a follow-up meeting with us?
Absolutely. We meet with you, but this project has a high sustainability goal and net zero. And for that purpose, anything that you see on this drawing, short of the hatched area of the building that is minimized for both police and fire rescue, this project went into a lot of space reductions, and right now it's at the brink of being functional in terms of size of it. And as you know, it's a bay, and then the south part of it, the square part, is all the behind the bay functions, and also all those dark gray access areas that you could see. Majority of them are back of the bay or front of the bay aprons, but then it tries to make it a safe and accessible route for both police and fire to navigate. And there are
You know what,
very
we're
narrow.
not disputing any of that, and we understand that and appreciate the importance. We're also trying to make it safe for pedestrians and all, and that's really where
Yeah,
our
sure.
focus is. And we're not trying to impact the usability of this because we fully support the function of fire and rescue.
Absolutely. On the Randolph Road, as Mr. Benjamin, the civil engineer, mentioned, potential for any kind of feasible sidewalk. If we can, we will study that. On a Chapman, it's a little. There is a sidewalk, but maybe we cannot make it that wide. And that apron, we discussed it. But then there are other techniques that we use on other fire stations for safeguarding the pedestrian. It's a fire station, so the fire trucks will cross any kind of sidewalk that is in front of them. Right? But we can provide techniques to make it as safe as possible for pedestrians. Absolutely, we're willing to work with you.
Wonderful, thank you. Who should I reach out to set up the meeting?
I'll shoot you an email, Amy.
Wonderful, thank you.
This is Rebecca from DOT. Do you guys, in DGS, do you have those studies or any information you can provide to us? And who are you working with in DOT?
The director of Department of Transportation is directly in charge of this. They're working with all of the people. and the executive to figure out what that thing is. I'm not familiar to give you any report on that, but I can figure out who's the either project manager or if it's directly the director. But I know between the director of DOT and the county executive and the director of DGS, they have been discussing that study, but I don't know anything more about it.
Okay, thank you.
But that's just for the road connection.
Mhm.
For the feasibility, it has been the report and the studies that we did in corresponding with the executive for the feasibility of doing anything else other than this fire station in the nature of housing on this piece of property that you could see. And that report was telling the executive that unfortunately not feasible.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Kirk Farm. Your lead reviewer is Ugo Njezi, and the purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions based upon the comments that you received. I will turn it over to Ugo first for him to highlight any of the major items we should discuss, and this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Go ahead, Ugo.
Good afternoon, everybody. First big ticket item is that there is a stream valley buffer in the northern quadrant of the property, which staff does not want disturbed, which makes Tall Timbers Road the only access to the site. There is a sewer it is a sewer category 6, but there's no septic field illustrated on the plan. We do know that you are within the sewer envelope. So either an administrative change happens or on further plans, there's a septic field being depicted. With Tall Timbers being the only access to the site, there are concerns about the amount of frontage, meeting fire and rescue standards, and potential improvements to the unpaved portion of right of way. And I'll turn to you for questions to think deeper into comments.
Sure. Steve Crum with McCrease Hendricks and Glasscock. With respect to the Tall Timbers frontage, there's only 14 feet of frontage, so we can't get frontage from Tall Timbers. We have to use the other street. So I mean, I recognize that there's a stream valley buffer, but there simply isn't enough frontage on Tall Timbers to get access to the property. So I think all the comments related to using Tall Timbers for the legal access are moot. You know, we proposed, we think there's enough room to get a driveway through and create lot 2, but its legal frontage would be on the other street. Sorry. Never Brook Farm Road. And then the lot 1 would also have its legal frontage on Brook Farm and would have its access from Brook Farm. There are adjacent mains in Tall Timbers, so we can go for a category change. We understand that that would be required. That's why we didn't show any septic areas on the plan. With respect to fire and rescue comments, it's been my understanding that if you're only serving one dwelling from an access point, it doesn't need to meet all of the 20-foot wide pavement, 90-foot turnaround, et on that. Marie LaBalle seems to have.
Steve, we talked about this last week. So
yes,
this is
we did. So I understand that we'll have to satisfy your requirements.
Can you share, Marie, what the comments were that you discussed us?
Basically, because we're subdividing a lot from 1 to 2, you trigger fire department access. If you had a single lot, we could make the argument that you have a parcel and you could put 1 home on it. But you are subdividing into 2. So that means you are subject to fire department access for both of these units. Tall Timbers is not a compliant fire department access route for new development. It's not paved. It's not 20 feet wide. I don't even know if you have a hydrant down there, and you have no turnaround. From the other street, that appears to be a compliant fire department access route, but now we're looking at a shared driveway to come down to both of those units, which also impacts your stream valley buffer. So there's at this time, I do not see a way to meet fire department access requirements for 2 lots here.
There is a fire hydrant on Tall Timbers. It's about halfway between 108 and the end of Tall Timbers, according to WSSC's records. So there is, although you're right, it's Tall Timbers is not paved. I looked at the subdivision case for lot 14, and DOT at the time waived the requirements for any improvements to Tall Timbers due to the fact that they were only developing 1 lot, and it seemed unfair.
When was that done?
2002.
Okay, and
Right,
Marie
so-
is not involved in that review?
I understand.
Okay.
So that predates the enforcement of fire department access. Code requirements have been on the books since the 70s. They did not begin being enforced until 2000, end of 2005, early 2006. So that development predates enforcement of the law.
Understood. We'll find a way to provide fire department access. If it needs to come from the other street, we'll find a way to do that. I mean, it means more impacts to the Stream Valley buffer. That's why we were proposing to only have to have a driveway serve off of Tall Timbers to the second line.
Well, I look forward to your next submission. You know what I need to see, so.
Yep.
Do you mind weighing in on the environmental comments?
Yeah, the environmental guidelines state that in the PMA, stream buffer area must be left in undisturbed and in its natural state. Period.
Then that becomes a taking.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, I disagree.
You can still have frontage onto Brook Farm. You just have to get access off of Tall Timbers.
Well, Tall Timbers isn't compliant. We can't get access off of Tall Timbers. There's no way for us for this development to make it
Is
compliant.
that true? We need a zoning person here.
That you have enough width for one driveway, not two. So we are suggesting that this property is appropriate for one lot, for one dwelling unit, not two. We're saying at most one. We're not even certain that one is feasible.
Well, if one isn't feasible, then that's a taking.
Is it a take?
Because
You don't have any units there now.
I understand we don't have any units, but it's a parcel that we can take through the subdivision process.
You can take through the subdivision process and you can propose whatever you want to propose. I'm saying we don't see a way to support more than one lot at most. And so that's the feedback we're giving you as part of the concept plan process. We're trying to say it as clearly as possible. We can only support at most one lot.
But you also went on to say you don't even know that one lot's possible.
One lot is possible. There's a number of comments that you're hearing from the different agencies that present challenges to making even one lot out of this property. So if you're able to address those comments in, what you heard from Marie, those are significant comments. There's significant comments from our environmental team as well. If you can address all of that, I think maybe one lot is possible, one dwelling unit is possible.
Okay. Elizabeth, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Hi. My name's Elizabeth Wozniak. I'm my sister, Dr. Marcy Wozniak at University of Maryland. Myself and my brother, Tad Wozniak, are here at this meeting. My parents purchased this land in 1964. And when they purchased the land, it zoned R200, which are half-acre zoned parcels to be put into building lots. And they have been taxed at that rate since 1964. Just between 1999 and 2003, they have paid $153,000 in taxes as if this is a 3 building lot parcel. Okay. And I called the Department of Taxation and had a hearing with them and spoke with them. And they told me that it will continue to be taxed that way unless your department said that no, nothing can be done with this and it should not be taxed that way. So there's a big miscommunication and a lot of money has been put into this land and taken in taxes. And to now turn around and say the land cannot be developed seems like a big problem to me.
I don't think anybody.
I don't know if you've talked to anybody in this department before today about this property and the potential for development in this property. I would be curious to hear if you got different feedback from anybody about development potential.
No, my father passed away. They've been holding this land since 1964. And my father passed away in July of 2022. And I went and got the land assessed, and it came back as a much lower assessment, like 530,000, because it is being taxed at $773,000. That's the value of it. And so my parents never did anything with it and just sat and continued to pay those taxes, thinking that one day, okay, this would be developed. So, and I phoned taxation. I actually did a meeting, an assessment meeting with them, and they said, this is how we are taxing this land. We are taxing this land at 3 parcels, and that's the way we consider it, unless you guys, right, come back and say, no, nothing can, you can't tax them like that. But they have currently paid probably well over $200,000 in taxes on this land under that conception.
Yeah, we don't handle anything with taxes, unfortunately, so we can't really help you with that. I don't know why they're taxing you that way, considering it's not this.
He told me that the only people that he will take any information from is you guys when you tell him that this land cannot be built on, or is only 1 lot, or is only 2 lots. That he would not even take he would only take things from you guys that say, from Park and Planning, that it cannot be taxed that way.
I mean, this is an unrecorded parcel. I don't know where they're getting their information from. An unrecorded parcel is not buildable.
Okay, well, that is the way it is being taxed as it's on the books. I mean, it's in the tax thing. That is the way it's being taxed. So there's a problem.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't help you with that.
Well, could I at least have a note from you guys that says this parcel cannot be developed so I can lower my taxes or do what I need to do? Because that is the way they're taxing. They explained it to me explicitly.
I think it says on the code on chapter 50, if it's not platted, it cannot be built on.
Right.
You cannot issue a building permit on. So
they say they do it by that it's a parcel that's zoned R200 that can be divided into 3 lots. And so they tax on 3 lots.
That's interesting.
So just to be.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just gonna ask that the planning department won't support any access through the Stream Valley buffer.
That is correct.
Hey, Steve, this is Jonathan Casey. Quick question. So based on what I've heard, you could potentially use what is it, Stream Valley, which what's the northern road called again?
Brook Farm Drive.
Brook Farm, yeah. You could potentially use that as your frontage and then access from the opposite side. I know you have very limited amount of frontage on that road, but from what I heard, if you develop this with 1 lot, you could potentially use that configuration.
But we'd still have to show that frontage, that panhandle, for want of a better term, as being cleared. And Doug is saying that it all has to be in a conservation easement. My legal access can't be in a conservation easement.
Well, we're talking about frontage, not access.
Understand, but in order to show that I have legal frontage, I have to show 25 feet on a publicly maintained roadway. Correct?
Steve, you have frontage on the roadway. You just don't have access to that roadway.
But I'd have
Yeah.
to show it as being cleared.
No, you don't.
No, you
How,
don't.
how can you say that the frontage isn't cleared?
The property can have frontage on the road and get access somewhere else.
I understand that.
Okay, then what's the problem?
I think that the way the forest conservation law is written, I can't show legal frontage on a road and not show it being cleared.
See, I'm confused here, Steve, because I've seen many other lots, parcels get frontage to roads and have easements across them and not get access off those roads.
Okay, if that's the case, then we'll work with it that way.
That is the case. I know it doesn't sound very logical. You would think frontage and access would coexist, but there are many cases where frontage is from an adjacent road, and there is goes through a stream or something like that, where it's not actually used for access. It's simply lines on a plat. Then I think Miss Wozniak she'd raised her hand.
I mean, I just wanted to say, because I don't know that any easement will be granted off of tall timbers. And I don't know the laws of what that is, but I know that there's been talk that says absolutely no easement will be granted.
So
You have frontage on tall timbers. It may not be a full 25 feet, but you do have frontage, which is legal. Your property touches the right of way. So
Okay.
you wouldn't need an easement from anybody unless, if Marie's code requires it, then that's a different situation. I'm not going to speak for her, but you do have some frontage on tall timbers. It's just not the full 25 feet that you would need for a typical lot. But that is the discussion we just had. It was strictly about frontage, which you could take from the other road. So it's kind of a non-issue for tall timbers.
Did you get all that, you guys?
It's a lot to absorb. I understand. It's kind of a
Well, it's very,
Wait.
I mean, you guys can imagine it's incredibly confusing to me, because I'm getting
completely.
messages from all sides, and a lot of money has been put into this lot over the years in taxation. So there's really, this can be looked into further.
Understood. And I know the taxation thing is kind of not our issue, but I think we can meet with Steve and walk through this a little bit to discuss the details and see what is possible here. And then he can come back to you all and kind of translate that into a simplified way that is a little bit easier to understand.
Okay.
Steve, does
This
that
is
sound
my-
agreeable to
this
you?
is- This is my brother.
Excuse me, this is Tad Wozniak speaking. I'm here with my sister. I was just wondering, can we take a step back of you said we have enough frontage, and then what is the code of to get access?
Well, the fire department access needs to be 20 feet wide. The pavement needs to be 20 feet wide.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about access to my property.
You need, the minimum width is 25 feet on a public street.
Okay.
And we have more than that on Brook Farm Drive. So
Okay.
we don't have a problem with frontage.
Right. That's what I'm asking. What is the problem with access to my property?
It's because there's a stream and the Stream Valley buffer, and we're in the Patuxent management area, which environmental planning is saying there can't be any disturbance to the stream valley buffer. Even though there's a road in the stream valley buffer.
All the adjacent,
So-
all the adjacent properties.
If we have access from, I guess on the backside, there's the Hallowell property and that has a circle turnaround. If we came in from that side that runs, it doesn't run into it, but you can see tall timbers to the Hallowell property right there. If we came in that way, would that be allowed to, like, would we be able to get access to our lots that way?
Well, let's talk about this on offline. That's not really, I'm not sure that this group can answer that question today.
Okay.
If we can satisfy fire department access and show that there's 2 buildable lots, staff support 2 buildable lots. Is the only impediment to 2 lots fire department access? We stay out of the stream valley buffer.
If you stay out of the stream valley buffer, you have a shared driveway out of tall timbers to the south, then you need to have 20 feet, a 20-foot wide driveway.
You also have to find a turnaround. So you have to find a
Yes,
compliant
and-
fire department turnaround.
I understand that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I know what I need to do. I just need to understand whether if we stay out of the stream valley buffer and we show that we can satisfy fire department access, will staff support
Also,
potentially
you
2 lots?
You also have to show 80 feet separation.
Understood.
Well,
Okay.
Hey, Steve, Mark Etheridge, real quick with stormwater.
Hey,
If you're
Mark.
if you're subdividing, you've got to show that it's potentially possible to get full stormwater management. I'll throw
Understood.
that out there. So I think you already know that, but we wouldn't support a subdivision that can't reasonably show a possibility of providing full stormwater. So there's that to look into, but you guys probably
Okay,
know
well,
about that.
we've got disconnect to the stream valley buffer. So, but I understand
Yeah, that could happen, yeah.
there's a number of issues. I'm just trying to maybe narrow it down to what staff could support.
I just want to throw it out there for
Yep.
consideration. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, this is WCC. Only FYI, I don't know if this matter, but behind the lot where the toll road finish is a WCC easement.
Yes.
I don't know if that will help or not.
So just for us to understand, so make sure we're all on the same page, how would you foresee fitting in a 20-foot wide driveway access to tall timbers if you just have 14 feet or so?
We'd probably have to get an easement from one of the neighbors. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And
That's
I'm
what
not,
we-
not saying that could squash everything. But
It's an option, like you said, absolutely right.
yes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Just wanted to double check.
Okay.
Have you had any conversations with the neighbors yet?
Yes, can I?
Sure.
Oh, the neighbor that's there has said he will not grant an easement. I don't understand why, because he probably went on my property to get it to build his house, which makes no sense, and never asked for an easement. But he is saying he will not grant any easement.
Okay, well, there's 2 neighbors, maybe the other one could be persuaded that we could use to get the 20 feet that we need. So
What happens if an easement is not granted?
then I think we're looking at potentially the maximum of 1 lot and having to ask for fire department a waiver from a portion of the fire department access requirements where there would be a narrow spot in the access, but a limited narrow spot. Is that correct, Marie? You're still there.
I'm sorry, technical difficulty. Could you repeat the question? Like everything buzzed
If-
out on me.
If we can't secure an easement to get a full 20 foot of pavement through the little window that we have, we could ask for a code modification to have a narrow spot and then widen once we get on the property.
You could, that's generally coupled with a hydrant. So if you have a narrow spot, you would want a hydrant beyond that with the operational space and your turnaround.
Okay.
You still have an issue with the pavement and the width of tall timber. So something to keep in mind. We can talk about how we want to address that, but as of right now, that's an issue.
Okay.
And just as so I can inform my tax people so that I'm not paying $8,000 plus a year for taxes for 3 lots, is there somebody I can contact through that office so I can let the Department of Taxation revamp or redo how they're taxing that property?
I think you're not going to know really though how it should be taxed until you're fully through this process. Because you don't know whether you're going to have one or two coming
Okay.
out.
I mean, she could say, she could get a letter from you guys saying it's not buildable today.
It's not buildable with 3. Well, it's not going to take 3 lots, and they're taxing it on 3 lots. So it definitely won't take 3 lots. That's the conclusion of today in terms of my taxes.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Sandra and her team about how they
Okay.
would handle this.
Yes, so you bring up good questions. We don't get in, we don't know much about the the Department of Taxation and Assessment and their process and what they go through. So we'll try to assist as much as we can on what
Okay.
you need.
Okay. And what's your name, Sarah?
Sandra Pereira. I believe Steve Crum has my contact information, email, phone number.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anything else, Elizabeth?
Yeah, we're over time, so we need to.
Okay.
Any last minute questions before we wrap up? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. And this is DRC meeting for Bachelor's Forest Reserve P385. Mariah Claiborne is the lead reviewer. And the purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions you have about the comments you received. I will hand this over for Mariah for her to highlight any of the major things we should talk about. And this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Go ahead, Mariah.
Good morning, everyone. I hope all is well. I'm sorry about my voice. I'm a little under the weather. But this is a concept plan for Bachelor's Forest Reserve. This is parcel 385. As you see right here where the little search for result tab is, this is the parcel. Excuse me. The concept plan is located in Albany, Maryland, east to Georgia Avenue in Albany Manor Recreational Park. This property is along Cashel Road and also Emory Lane. Emory Lane. It has an existing house on site, and also there's like a little structure in the back. Unsure if it's a shed or like a garage. This is zone R200. This is proposing parcel to be subdivided into 4 lots, 3 with frontage and access along Cashel Road, and then also 1 lot that is frontage with access on Emory Lane. One of the major concerns for this property is that there's about 2 acres of forest on this site. So I'll go ahead and kick it over to the applicant if you have any questions for staff or any other agency comments.
Thank you. I'm Rich Ingram, CPJ. We understand regarding the environmental comments with amount of forest clearing. We are going to try to save some trees. It is a forested lot right now. I'd like to keep as much as possible, but we understand that those cannot be put into an easement and that a final forest conservation plan will be required. The fire hydrants, there is one on both streets. I don't want to say directly across from the lots, but it appears to meet everything. We are going to be confirming that when we do a survey of the property. I did have a question regarding dedication. We understand area transportation, and then there was a comment from county transportation. Both mentioned, or I'm sorry, area transportation mentioned 80-foot, county mentioned 70-foot for Cashel. Just want to make sure both of these are 80 feet.
No, both are 80 feet. We didn't mention, I didn't mention 80 feet of right of way, but it's master plan with 70. County agreed with me with the 80 feet of right of way, just to feed the temple that maybe they can touch on that too, like the public utility easement. So we will both be requiring 80 feet of right of way for Cashel Road. Okay.
Yes, it's Deepak that he's Justin is correct that we require 80 feet of right of way. Its minimum is 70 feet as per the code, but based on the classification of this classification of the roadway.
Okay, so 80 feet for both. We did see the comments from area design regarding, and also I think another department made them as well, driveway access location, potentially flipping driveways, shared driveways, garage, basement garages and stuff. We hear those comments. We definitely understand in the part about the queuing for both roads, especially proposed lot 1 and lot 2, and potentially getting those farther down. I guess my question is there a distance you're looking for to be away? If the comment was made to flip these, if we flip them, the houses, if they're only 40 feet wide, we're talking 40 more feet. Is that going to be an issue? Do we need to?
The goal is to have it as far away as possible from that intersection. So given the limitations of the lot lines, where the lot lines are, we understand that, but still trying to move it as far as possible. We also suggested having a shared driveway. So that would also be something that even moves it further away.
Sure.
The intersection.
Also, to just Deepak with DOT, and also the site distance. You gotta take a look at the site distance when you put those driveways in the location.
Yes.
That has to be met.
Understood. 1 second.
Notice that the site has some topography associated with it. So as much as possible, try to work with the existing topography by having perhaps the garages at a lower elevation than the front door. It seems like it would work well to do that, right? If the site is sloping down,
Sure.
if the house is at the higher elevation, the garage could be at the lower elevation, it could be tucked under the house. I mean,
Most people prefer, in this case, if you're on the high side, you get the walkout basement, nice backyard, instead of having to go upstairs and from the garage up to the first floor. That's a design element that, once they get into actually laying out the lots and architecture to explore.
it would give you more living space above the garage. You could extend the house, double the size.
Sure.
There you go. There's benefits. We'll come up with those.
Understood. And then we confirmed the 80-foot right of way. This goes to county transportation and curb and gutter and improvements to existing bus stops should be coordinated. So I just want to confirm that is going to be a requirement as far as a bus stop being constructed on Montgomery.
Yes. There is a bus stop along your frontage. I think it's on Emory. That's an existing
Yes.
bus stop. Yes. So that
Yeah,
has to be.
Okay. As far as the curb and gutter goes, obviously I haven't, this is a concept, so I haven't gotten to the actual design phase yet. But curb and gutter, if that is the typical road section, I'm assuming for both fronts and the entire frontage, because right now, the curb is only at the intersection. It doesn't continue on down either side. It's open section. Is that going to be a requirement for the entire frontage of the property, curb and gutter? If that's what the typical section says, even though that's not what the road is now?
So as far as curb and gutter is concerned, you probably need a waiver from DPS since it's in the class, I think it's class 3 watershed. But I don't see a reason why you cannot extend that curb and gutter all the way through, because there's already curb and gutter at the intersection. So.
Okay.
Hey, Deepak, quick question. The curb and gutter right now so it's only at the intersection and everything slopes, I guess, plan north. So would they then be required to put I don't think there's any storm
I don't know how
out there.
they have to. It all comes down to the drainage. I don't know how the drainage is going to work. So they have to look at it. Basically, if it's curb and gutter, they need a waiver from DPS when they have to put in because of class 3. If they want to fit in the open section, they have to look at how the swale and drainage works over there.
All right. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
The one, I don't want to say big item, but I didn't see it in any comments, and WSIC commented incomplete on the status sheet I have here. But right now, the sewer does not extend up to these properties. Do we foresee any issues with sewer extension?
Yeah, we didn't receive a plan for conceptual review, but I don't see any issue. We have a sewer along Catchell Road. So always that you do the extension, and we will need to do the hydraulic review and see if we have capacity, but I don't see any issue because it's only 4 houses.
Right. And, part of this, and obviously that's a different review down the road, but there is no public sewer in Emory as well. And we would be looking to, right now, take our proposed lot 1 and a private sewer house connection easement across the lots to access sewer on Cashel.
Yeah, I saw that will not be a sewer house connection, will be a private, and
Yes.
you will need to give the lot 4 will need to give a private easement to lot 1 and prepare a document to share that, not to share the line, but to share the property. And in the future, when they have to do maintenance, they don't have any problem.
Okay.
Mhm. They will have, they will need a covenant and a private easement.
Right. Understood. Was there anything else of concern that wasn't in the comments? Do we see this as a red flag with what we're doing?
It seems straightforward. Go ahead, Mariah.
And I was just about to ask him to clarify his question if it was to Karim or if it was to the overall project. But for the overall project, I don't know, I can't really see, but everything was straightforward. On the development standards table, what you have proposed so far, everything is in conformance. So definitely maintain what you have there, plus all the recommendations and the requirements that are provided today.
That's all I have then.
Okay. Does anyone want to provide any comments to this that probably didn't get a chance to speak if need be? If not, those were the only touches that we wanted to touch on as well. So that would be it for this concept plan.
All right. Thank you, Mariah.
Thank you.
Thank you.